Assalamu alaikum, dear parents and students. Welcome to our week 6 of distant learning. I hope everyone is doing great and keeping themselves safe. Our subject is science. We'll start with topic number 1, lesson number 3, use solids. Step 1 is that we will go through the presentation and I want everyone to be very clear of their learning intention and success criteria. So let's go over it. Our learning intention is I will be able to investigate how the properties of some solids make them useful. Success criteria is I can identify different properties that are best suited to different purposes. I can list the material that are best suited to different purposes. I can model on the poster. Now, I want everyone to look into our learning pit. As we talk about learning pit before, and we talk about it in every lesson, so the learning pit is for every learner. And whenever we are learning something new and we are faced with a challenge, we always find ourselves in the pit. And this is the time where we need to practice, try to learn from different resources, and ask for help if we don't understand from our teachers, from our parents, from our friends, from our family members. And with time, with practice and hard work, we can find ourselves outside the learning pit and successful. And here you need to ask yourself, what is my next goal? How can I achieve more? And how can I put more knowledge on what I already have achieved? So let's go to our second slide, KWL chart. So what I know already, we already covered matter occupies space and it has its weight, and matter can be identified through its properties like measurable, observable, and testable. So I can measure it, I can observe it, and I can test it. And what I want to know today, how properties of some solid make them useful. And what I learned, this is what we will talk at the end of the lesson, that what we have learned today from this whole lesson. Now, lesson number 3, use solids. What are some examples of matter in your room? So can you look around your room and think of some examples? Well done. So there might be, for example, a table which is made of solid, which the matter is solid and it is made of wood. And if you look, for example, the pencil that you're holding is solid and is made of wood. Well done. So let's go to the next question. Which do you think has more weight, a table or a pencil? Amazing, a table. Why do you think the table has more weight? Because it's heavier than a pencil. What sense would you use to observe the texture of an object? So if you want to know how something feels like, which sense would you use? Excellent critical thinking. So you would use your touch. You would touch and try to feel how does the texture feel like. How is the texture? Is it soft? Is it rough? It's bumpy? It's smooth? Now, why do you think it is important to observe the properties of matter? Why do you need to observe the properties of a matter? You already know it's solid, liquid, gas. Why do you need to observe the properties of it? Amazing answers. So let's look here. So I can identify it, I can use it correctly, and to be safe around us. So I can sort and see what is it? Does it sink? Does it float? What are the different purposes of it? Why do I need to know? Why is it important? So does it sink or does it float? So if I want to, for example, make a house, I want to check, does the material that I'm using, is it gonna sink, or it's gonna float? Is it magnetic? It's not magnetic. Use it correctly. So if I know it's magnetic, so I can use it correctly in a nicer way. For example, the third one is to be safe around. So for example, if it's very dangerous and you need to know how to be safe around it, so you should, why is it important for us to know? So you can identify it, you can use it correctly, and to be safe around it. Now step number 2 is open your books and read pages number 22 and 23. And here, the inside of a house. Identify, tell what materials are used in this house. So look around the house and tell me the materials that this house are made up of. For example, let me give you an example. I can see a door here, and the door is made up of wood. So now you can look around and look at the objects in the house and tell me what are the materials used for them. Well done. So for example, I can say that the windows are made out of glass and the wall is made out of brick, right? The garage door is made out of maybe aluminium or steel. Why are the materials good for their job? So why they are good for their job? Why did we, for example, use glass for a window? Why not a wood for the window? Why a glass? Well done, amazing. So a window is transparent and a door is not transparent. I cannot see through the door, but I can see through the window. So when I'm in my room, I want the light to come inside my room. So that's why I use a glass, so the light can come through from outside. Amazing. Now let's go to the next one. I can model on the poster and label the materials that are best suited to a purpose of defense. So for defense, to keep safe by their properties. Make a home or shelter for your family that will keep you safe. What material will you use to create your shelter or home? What materials will you use? What properties materials have that make you want to use them? So what are the properties in those materials that you want to use? Why you're using them? What is good in that property that you're using that property instead of another material? So what are the properties in those materials that you're using? So here, add your choice of matter in the list if you have any. For example, we have wood here, glass, bricks, metal, cement, plastic. So these are ones. If you want, you can add more that you have with you in your list. Now this is how the paper looks like. You can print out this activity paper. You can write your name, your class, the date, and success criteria is I can model on the poster and label the materials that are best suited to a purpose of defense by their properties. Direction. Draw a model of the house on the poster and label the materials. So here you're going to draw a model of the house that will keep you safe, and you have to label those materials. For example, what is the door made out of? What are the glass made out of? So which materials you will use for the walls, for the door, for the windows. You have to label them, and here are the list of materials, and if you want you can write your list of materials here also, and then this is where you will give your feedback. Now here, to be A good learner, we have to always give feedback about our learning. So here you have to look over the success criteria if you achieved it or not. Number one is I can identify different properties that are best suited to different purposes. Can you identify different properties that are best suited for different purposes to use? Number two, I can list the material that are best suited to different purposes. So can you list materials that are best suited for different purposes that you can use for? And number three is I can model on the poster. So can you model a house that will keep you and your family safe? And here we have three boxes. Number one is your strength. So what is your strength? What you're really good at? What you have achieved already? Concern is you're having a little bit problem in solving it, a little bit confusion, you're not clear about it. Strategy, what are the strategies that you used to achieve this? So here are some of the strategies, bank, that you can use, or maybe you use a different strategy. So you can write down here some of the strategies that you might have used can be I read more about properties of matter. I observe more materials as solids that can be used for specific purposes. I investigate with more objects to make conclusion and then share. So you can use one of them. If you have used it, you can write it in strategy, or maybe you use a different strategy of your own. Now KWL chart. So we already said, what we already knew was that matter occupies space and has its own weight. Matter can be identified through properties like measurable, observable, and testable. What I want to know today was how properties of some solid make them useful for different things to use for. And what you have learned today is the uses of solids, how solids can be used for specific purposes. Knowing the properties of matter can help us pick the right material for the job. So if you know the properties of the matter that you're using, it will be very helpful for you to choose the right material that you need for the job that maybe you're building a house. So you need to know the right materials to use for it. And for the exit ticket, you will have an online assignment to be completed. That is your exit ticket. And thank you so much for listening. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask your teachers. Thank you for listening.